always wonderful to have you join us. Yes. I see you. I see you. And I see you. These are words from my favorite movie of all times, Avatar. And Avatar is one of my favorite movies because Jake Sully was able to transport himself from one thing that was limited to a whole nother being on the planet of Pandora. It was a shift in consciousness from lack, limitation, to a consciousness of anything is possible. Anything is doable. I see you is part of the Navi language, which is looking beyond the physical form to the spirit and to the soul of a person. It's moving from looking with the eyes to looking with the heart. And I don't know about you, but when I get into that heart congruence and I see and hear and feel and move from my heart, it's a whole different world out there. And we get to see. This phrase, I see you, is seeing the true person. And the gospel, according to AI, tells me that I see you conveys a deep understanding and recognition at a spiritual level, acknowledging the person's true essence and connection and interconnectedness with the entirety of the world. The Navi people on Pandora saw not just with their eyes, but with their heart. Now I know that Avatar is a work of fiction. And somehow it just seems possible, and it seems like a beautiful endeavor to try to live in a way that sees the true essence of ourselves and of each other. In order to see that true essence in any one of you, in order to see that Christ, that divine, that true nature, I have to first recognize and welcome it within myself. Otherwise, I can't see it in you. Thus, we step into finding the Christ in ourselves. Years ago, when I was working in sales and marketing in South Florida, I was driving to a sales call at a hospital. And rather than taking my standard route, I exited the highway and I turned right instead of going straight. And at the very next stop sign was a sign in the yard that said Metaphysical Book Store. So I pulled in, and it was the bookstore for Unity of Hollywood, Florida. And I went in, and I just started looking around, and I picked up a couple of books and put them back, and then I picked up a book called Lessons in Truth by H. Emily Cady. And I opened it and read a couple of sentences, and I had no clue what she was talking about. But there was something about the vibration of her words, and there was something that moved me to know I needed that book. So I bought it and took it home, and that night, as I read it, I still didn't know exactly what she was talking about, but I knew it was true. I knew at the cellular level of me that what Emily Cady was talking about was the truth. So I continued to study, and the rest, they say, is history. Her book, Lessons in Truth, was transformative to me. I had been attending a religious science center, which became Science of Mind, which became Centers for Spiritual Living. But there was something missing. There was something that I needed that I still wasn't getting to be able to use that religion of my childhood and the religion of my family to understand it in a different way. And that's what Unity gave me. So in that Lessons in Truth, it was a life changer for me. So today I want to step back into that book that was so meaningful and so life-changing for me long ago. And I chose the chapter, Finding the Christ in Ourselves. It seemed to me a great place to begin because once I find that Christ, that divine nature in myself, then it makes it possible to see it in others. Now, there are days that I don't see the Christ in anybody. No. And then there are days that I can see the Christ in every being. So it's a constant practice to remember first and foremost who and what I am so that I can see that in others. So last Sunday, we spent a little bit of time on the idea of grace and this scripture that has been resonating with me all week, Ephesians 2:10, that says that you are the handiwork of God. I just can't get over that. You are the handiwork of God. We all are. And Cady says that this source did not make us to set it apart from itself. You know, when a woodworker builds a chair, he builds the chair and then sets it aside. Either he uses it or sells it or something happens to it, but it's not part of him anymore. It's a separate and distinct object. But that's not how we're made. Our Creator did not make us and set us aside. Not only are we from Source in the beginning, but this Source that it is the constant fountain springing new life into our mortal bodies. So the words of Cady. This Source is the fountain constantly springing new life into our mortal bodies. Allow that fountain to flow in you. You know, God is always that intelligence that is in us. Always that intelligence that is inspiring us. Always that intelligence is our innate knowing. You know, all those things that you know because you know that you know. Not anything that you learned in school or in church or at home, just things that you know. And that's what resonated with me when I picked up that book of Cady's. I knew instinctively that that was true. We also hear in 2 Corinthians 6:16 that we are the temple of a living God. We are the temple. We are the house that God lives in. The living God, awake and alive in us. And Acts 17:28 reminds us, in Him we live and move and have our being. We live as that presence of God. So imagine my ears long ago hearing those words and my heart taking in those words and how that vibration moved and shifted and changed me. And we need to recognize that Christ essence that was in Jesus is what made him Jesus, that made him Christ Jesus, that makes us that Christ nature. We could all be named with Christ as our first name. When I had a church in Dallas, there was a man, his name was Dennis. What a precious soul he was. And that's how he greeted everyone. Good morning, Christ Cheryl. Good morning, Christ April. He would greet everyone with their Christ nature. It took some getting used to because none of us are accustomed to that, of thinking that of ourselves. We have to grow into that. So once we recognize that we are that Christ, that it is ourselves, and we emanate that into our world, When we comprehend that, because that is the truth of us, whether we realize it or not. That is our truth. This same Christ that lived in Jesus lives in us. And dare I say, when we deny that we are that, when we deny that we are the Christ, we are denying the ability of God to move in us and to express as us and to be us in the world. We are holding back on that. So now is a time for us to recognize that, to own that. Just as Jesus recognized his humanness, yet he lived from his Christness. He lived from that awareness of that divine that was his birthright, that divine that was the all of him. And by whatever name is comfortable for you, that divine nature, that higher self, that spiritual self, that true nature, whatever phrase you have to be comfortable and cozy with that, use that, claim that. We do acknowledge in our existence that, yes, indeed, we are 100% human. There's no doubt. We can pinch ourselves and feel it. We know when we walk through the world that we are walking as human beings. But that's not all of our story. The better part of our story is that we are 100% spiritual. So we have those same capabilities of Jesus to be the light, to be the presence. Jesus tells us himself, have I not told you that you are God's? Have I not told you that these things that I do, so you shall do also? These things and greater. Who's willing to claim that today? Who's willing to claim their divine presence today? Who's willing to claim that you are that Christ essence molded into human form, unique and beautiful as each of you show up in your human form, so you are too the divine, that Christ. There's a beautiful truth about us if we are willing and able to receive it. We are able to express it so beautifully when we acknowledge that. And Paul says it in his epistle to the Ephesians. And in him you too are being built together to become a dwelling place which God lives by his Spirit. Are you ready to be the dwelling place where God lives? Are you willing to be the dwelling place where God lives? Are you willing to be that dwelling place where God is in the world as you every day? Are you willing to be that? You and you and you and all of us, and those of you who are joining us from home, you are God's dwelling place. You are the place where God expresses God's self. Does that excite you in any way? Does that stir you to anything that you are the dwelling place of God? At every point of your being and every action of your doing, you are the presence. By whatever name you call that essence and energy that moves through all the universe, by whatever name you use for that which is the source of all love and the cause of all life, you are that. That's you. There's no denying it. You are the presence that's pressed into this human form for a short period of time as the unique and exquisite individual, a manifestation of the presence. You are breathed into this existence by that presence. The heart that beats within you is the heart of that presence. Your deepest part is divine. Our divinity is our goodness, our kindness, our generosity, our compassion, our forgiveness, and our love. While in our human form we may see lack, we may see limitation, and I bet that there's at least one person that's saying, "Oh no, that's not me." But we are that. Our divine nature sees sufficiency. Our divine nature sees unlimited, unbridled potential, no matter what is happening, no matter what our world looks like. And, to me, it looks a little bit wonky right now. But there is a greater potential. There is unlimited possibility for us to make manifest. When we pull ourselves from this human view into that spiritual, divine view, we see peace in the face of conflict. We might not know how to get there quite yet. We might not know exactly how that happens, but we can see peace in the face of conflict. We hear words of love rather than hate. We feel compassion in place of greed. We see a world of equity rather than individuality. And we honor the interconnectedness of all of us rather than the separateness of us. In our deepest parts, the divinity of us knows that there is only oneness. We can't be separate one from another in truth, in the spiritual realm, no matter how we sift and sort and divide and separate each other, ourselves from one another. We can't be in the realm of divine truth, in that which is unchangeable, and that there is only one love, and we are that love. We are that palpable love that moves in the universe. And there is generosity. And there is union of all beings in that web of humanity. I have this beautiful, huge spider living in the bushes at my house. And every day I look at that spider web and I know how intricately it was woven and spun. And I see how beautiful that web spreads out between the branches and the leaves of the bushes. And I'm reminded every single day that that is the web of humanity. We cannot be separate. And when we see and find the Christ of ourselves, we can see that in the world. Now, Cady says that there's a great big difference between a Christian life and a Christ life. To live a Christ life is to follow those teachings of Jesus. Years ago there was a saying that kind of irked me at the time, but it was, what would Jesus do? Well, now it makes really good sense. What would Jesus do? And that's us living that Christ life. It's living in the knowledge that the divine is an indwelling presence in us, not in this person or that person or one of those teachers that we think is just all that. It's in us. It's in us, each and every one of us. That presence is always life. That presence is always choosing life. That presence is always wisdom. It is always that power within us, and that presence is always unfailingly love. And here's the really great part. The presence is ready and waiting and willing and wanting to flow through us, to be us in our world as unconditional, unlimited love. Cady says that this presence wants to lavish our consciousness. What do you think of when you think of lavish? Anybody? What do you? Extraordinary. Overabundance. I think of a mountain-sized ice cream sundae with all the toppings. This presence wants to lavish our consciousness. Oh my gosh. And all we need to do is to be open to receive it. So we can open our hearts. We need to trust it and to expect it and to be open to allow it to flow through us. To be open enough to welcome it, to express as us, and to pour from us to the world, to all other beings. Can you feel that presence? Can you feel that in you? I need to share that this week as I prepared this lesson and I sat with that chapter of Lessons in Truth, Find the Christ in Ourselves. Every time I read a part of it or wrote a part of it, I had this movement of energy just well up inside me. I had this energy that was invigorating and enlivening and engaging. I wanted to run out and be the Christ somewhere. I found it to be very engaging. So this Christ of you, this Christ of me, this Christ of all beings has always been there and is always ready, like a water faucet waiting to be turned on, to shower that Christ through us into the world. So the only question that remains today is, are we willing to turn on that faucet of the Christ of us? And we can always remember 1 Corinthians 16:14, and you know the words well by now, so speak them with me. Let all you do be done with love. Namaste.